I'm going to call the March 16, 2022 Williamsburg Planning Commission meeting to order. Heather, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Kale. Mr. Tarley. Here. Mr. Boswell.
Here.
Mr. Granger.
Here.
Label. Here. Mr. Sokolowski.
We need a motion from Mr. Sokolowski, who is obviously appearing virtually. We need a motion to permit that.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Tarley. Aye. Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Ms. Liebel.
Okay, and just double checking, Mr. Sokolowski, you can hear us all right?
I can. This is perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Our first order of business today is the approval of our minutes from February 16. Have there been any changes, updates that need to be made to the minutes that were submitted that are posted online? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the last meeting on February 16th.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Aye.
Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Ms. Liebel.
Aye.
Mr. Sokolowski.
Aye.
Okay, our next item of business on the agenda is an open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the commission on any matters that are not on the regularly scheduled agenda. That's the opportunity now. Not seeing a mad dash for the podium. We'll move along to the consent agenda items. We have two consent agenda items today, SPR 22-003, bus shelter, and SPR 21-010, Governor's Inn. Per our bylaws, items that are on the consent agenda will not have a formal presentation by staff and will not have a discussion. However, a member of the commission may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone request an item to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing no requests, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Aye.
Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Ms. Liebel.
Aye.
Mr. Sokolowski.
Aye.
Okay, we move along to the public hearings. The first is PCR 22-001 and Interim Director Aaron Burke.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I have a few moving parts, and I want to make sure. Connor, can you see the screen okay?
I can. Yes.
Great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is a request on behalf of Shari Hari of Virginia LLC by SHJ Construction Group to construct a new tidal wave auto spa. The construction would consist of a drive-through tunnel car wash with 22 self-serve vacuum stations and staff parking. My thing is not working. And staff parking at 1800 Richmond Road. Slides with the clicker. Oh, I can't advance the slides at all. The 2021 comprehensive plan designates this parcel and properties to the south as corridor commercial. Properties to the west are designated low-density, single-family detached residential, and properties to the north are designated medium-density multifamily residential. Properties to the east are located in York County and designated as commercial. This property, along with properties to the north and south, are zoned B2 corridor commercial. Properties to the west are zoned single-family dwelling RS2, and properties to the north are multifamily dwelling RM2 properties. And to the east are located, and the properties to the east are located in York County and zoned general business GB. The Architectural Review Board conducted a conceptual review on March 8, 2020. The applicant's architect was present at the meeting. The board noted that the modifications to the plan show brick instead of stone as requested. They also noted the amount of windows was still too much and encouraged the applicant to seek ways to reduce the amount of glass. There was a discussion about lighting, and the applicant indicated that the main building is not illuminated after hours other than some safety lighting inside. The roofs will not be shown as blue on the conceptual plan seen in your memos, but rather as brown, as shown on the conceptual plan here on the slide. There was a discussion about noise and what type of barrier would be used to prevent noise from reaching the adjacent neighborhoods. The applicant is not proposing a fence on these plans. The conceptual site plan was indicated there would be supplemental plantings. This is the drawing that was updated after AARB has reviewed the plans. Site Plan Review Committee reviewed this application at their meeting on January 19th. The committee expressed concerns about the location of the building on the property and what the view would be like from Richmond Road. They discussed similar businesses nearby and the viability of this facility in relation to those businesses. The committee also indicated there were some potential issues with the grade at the entrance to the site and had questions about public restrooms. The applicant's representative indicated that the entrance would be regraded to address those concerns, but there would not be public restrooms on the site. The applicant also indicated they considered siting the car wash and facilities to the back of the property, but wanted the visibility along Richmond Road. The applicant is proposing a car wash tunnel, 22 self-serve vacuum stations. The site would include the 2 vacuum houses, a self-serve kiosk for taking payments, and administrative space. The applicant has indicated they usually employ 10 to 15 employees, and hours are usually during daylight, but may extend until 6 p.m. in the winter months. As this is a special use permit, harmony with character of the adjacent properties and the surrounding neighborhood must be taken into consideration. This property is immediately adjacent to properties designated as low-density, single-family detached residential and medium-density multifamily residential in the 2021 Comprehensive Plan. And those properties are also zoned single-family dwelling RS2 and multifamily dwelling RM2. According to the conceptual plan, the vacuum stalls are approximately 75 feet from the property line to the north and 90 feet from the property line to the west. The use of 22 vacuums, a tunnel car wash with interior blowers, and idling cars awaiting service is not in harmony with the adjacent residential uses due to the noise and intensity of the use of the car wash. Staff recommends denial of PCR 22-001, a special use permit to construct and operate a car wash at 1800 Richmond Road, as it is a use that is not in harmony with the character of adjacent properties and surrounding neighborhoods. Staff's available if you have any questions, and the applicant's representative from AES is also present.
Thanks, Aaron. Questions for Aaron? Would the applicant like to address the commission? We'll open the open forum for that purpose.
Yes, I am Howard Price with AES Consultant Engineers. I just wanted to let you know, I'm here to make myself available, try to answer any of the questions that you may have about what is going on.
I think one of the key concerns that staff has involved in noise, the vacuums, the cars idling, the car wash itself, backing up to single-family homes and townhouses there. Could you speak to that, please?
Yes, the applicant has done a study. He has not provided it to me as of yet, but they have performed a noise study on other facilities that they have built. The majority of the sound that gets created is basically through the exterior of the car wash. You have all the brushes and stuff going on there, and that noise would be directed towards Richmond Road, which should not be a real issue there. In the rear, the car wash makes more noise than the actual vacuums themselves. And the entrance to the car wash is approximately 200 feet from the rear property line to the residential. Part of the residential already has a buffer, but we obviously are going to enhance that buffer to make sure that we alleviate that issue. Same thing as you go to the townhomes behind the Taco Bell. So those issues will be addressed to the best of our ability based on the sound study that is performed, which will tell us what the decibel level is. The city permits up to 65 decibels at the property line for the residential.
Yeah, frequently sound studies are included as part of an application to help us make that determination.
I made that request, and I was not.
I understand. So I understand. We've all been there. Questions?
I don't.
I don't have any questions. I have comments similar to you and to staff's, if I can make those at this time.
Let's
Okay.
have a public opportunity for public forum, and then we'll have discussion after that, if that's
Great.
all right, so we can get everything. All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the commission on this application? Again, no rush to the podium, so I'll close the public forum and open it up.
I think the lady in blue was interested.
Oh, you kind of are. I'm sorry.
She wasn't rushing, she was reluctant.
Wasn't rushing. Okay, we'll reopen the public forum, and if you state your name and address.
I didn't understand what that meant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, Price is right. Come on down. If you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Allison Wildridge. I live at 112 Thomas Nelson Lane, which is pictured right there on your map. That property is adjacent to mine, and I was just, this is the first time I've seen this sketch, the layout. I'm also a tidal wave member, so I'm familiar with it. I'm assuming that the larger parcel to the front on the right, closer to the other building, is where the car wash would be? Yes. Is that right? And then the long line would be the vacuums. And what's behind the car wash? What is that? Okay, that's, yeah. That is? Yeah. Oh, the
square is the kiosk.
Okay, so that's also a vacuum station. And then the other question I had was about maintenance. I said my property is on there, and you can actually see the Residence Inn parking lot that's diagonal. And when they built that property, I was at the meeting, and they talked about keeping it cleaned up and maintaining the property. And they did that for about 1.5 years. And then after that, it's been one of those things where there's a lot of overgrowth and things that grow into my property. I pay to have it taken care of because it's growing into my property. And then I look at a lot of dead limbs and stuff like that on the other side of, most of us have chain link fences, the old chain link fence. So you get a chance to see all the debris, but you don't get the chance, it's not as maintained as I'd like it to be, obviously. It's my property, it's my home. I'm the one who's got the skylights on there, or not the skylights, the solar panels on there.
You continue facing the microphone. The clerk might not be able to pick up your
You can't
comments
hear me?
if you go the other way, if you're looking the other way. Yeah.
So my home is the one with the solar panels on it, and it's sort of triangular. It has a very large backyard, and it backs up to, I'm not sure if the intended property that goes out and it's just green, if that's part of the parcel as well, and it's just going to remain green space? Okay. I guess my question is, how is it going to be maintained, and who assures that things like this are continued to be maintained? It looks beautiful on there with, it looks like trees and shrubs and things like that are going to be there, sound barriers and beautification, but how is it maintained?
If those are your questions, we can then ask the applicant to step back up and address them.
Addressing you.
Yeah, we just have to.
But after the applicants get approved and things like that, I guess my other question is to the city is, who do I call when there's a problem? And in the past, I've called the police because they've referred me to different people who have been able to, or the planning commission, who have been able to refer me. But it's a short-lived end to a constant problem. So that's my concern.
Understood. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Would you like to address her questions, sir?
Sure. As far as the rear part of that parcel, it will remain green in some form or another. Whether or not they plant it or just remain grass has not been finally decided, but it will remain green and open. And they will do, like say, landscape buffering, and they have a constant landscape group that comes in to cut the grass, maintain the shrubs, the mulch, all that stuff. And Tidal Wave does have a good reputation. They have been recognized for their cleanliness of their sites in many different locations, as they have sites in 7 or 8 different states, and they have won awards for their appearance of their sites. So they have a good reputation for making sure that they hire proper maintenance groups and take care of the sites.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address the commission on this particular application? No? Okay, I'll close the public forum. And I think Ms. Liebel had some comments.
The overeager participant. As I considered this property, both from the ARB perspective and from the planning commission perspective. I agree with what the staff has said. The reason why we have the special use permit process is to assure that we don't completely rule out every potential use for a piece of property, but by the same token, just because we have a list where a car wash is a potential special use, it is not necessarily appropriate in all situations. And I believe that the adjacency of the residential units in this particular location make it inappropriate for a car wash to go in that area, particularly for the unit or the volume of activity per unit of time. So the presentation that we received at another meeting talked about the number of cars that could go through this car wash on a per hour basis. It was significant, and it seems to me that's too much to be close to a residential neighborhood. The potential for noise I've raised several times. And then the potential for traffic even on Richmond Road during peak hours if the car wash was in fact experiencing the type of activity that they promise with their technology, it could increase the traffic on Richmond Road rather significantly. Saturday afternoons, like a day like today, I can see would be pretty terrible. So those are my comments about the.
Mr. Hamilton?
I've got nothing to add to the comments that have been made. I generally agree with what the planning department assessment is, and I agree with the issues about traffic impacting the surrounding residential areas.
I concur. I don't want to be an echo chamber here, but I think everything has been beautifully said. Can't really add anything. Yeah, well said.
Charlie, you made some comments at our last meeting.
I did, and thank you. None of them were really addressed, and the concerns I expressed were not necessarily the residential neighborhood, but the adjacent properties on Richmond Road. And so I do appreciate the fact that the applicant wants to do business in the city of Williamsburg. They spent a good deal of money to put together this proposal. There's an environmental assessment. We have AES present. So they've done a lot to try to establish this business, but this car wash in this location along that commercial corridor, notwithstanding it backing up against the residential neighborhood, in that commercial corridor, I don't believe, and I agree with staff's assessment that it is not in harmony with the character of the adjacent properties.
I completely agree that is not in harmony with the neighboring property. I don't think it's what we want our Richmond Road tourist corridor to look like, and I don't believe it adds enough to our community to warrant a special use permit. I had occasion recently to drive down Mercury Boulevard, and I think I counted 5 or 6 car washes, and they were all beautiful, but I don't think we want to work to look more like Mercury Boulevard these days. So it's a fine product, but I don't know that that's a great location for it. It's just not in sync with what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you all. I tend to agree with you. My main concern was the noise. I can just hear all the vacuums, and having a noise study would have been helpful, I think, but we don't, and I understand that. So I think we're ready for a motion.
I move that we deny the special use permit for.
Second?
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Mr. Sokolowski?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to PCR 22-004. Back to Interim Director Burke.
Slides to keep working for us.
It's nice having someone in the back room who can come out and fix it at a moment's notice, isn't it?
There we go. So this is a request of Williamsburg James City County Public Schools for a special use permit to continue the use of the 2 existing learning cottages at Matthew Whaley Elementary School through July of 2026. The site plan for the 3 learning cottages, a site plan for 3 learning cottages was originally approved by the Planning Commission on April 19, 1988. This approval was made under the old zoning ordinance, which did not require a special use permit. The Board of Architectural Consultants also reviewed and approved the proposal with conditions on April 20th, 1988. Following that approval, learning cottages were approved for Matthew Whaley School on April 19th, 2006, when a special use permit was approved by City Council for 1 year, expiring on July 1st, 2007. The Architectural Review Board approved the learning cottage with conditions on March 14th, 2006, and a special use permit for 1 learning cottage was approved in March of 2014 for a period lasting until July 31st, 2018. The special use permit was renewed on June 14th, 2018 until PCR 2022-004 on, this is not, my notes are wrong. So the special use permit was renewed on June 14th, 2018. At that time, Williamsburg James City County Public Schools requested a special use permit for a 2nd learning cottage and received approval from City Council with an expiration date of July 31st, 2022. The Architectural Review Board has approved the learning cottage with conditions on March 14th, 2006, and the Architectural Review Board approved a 2nd learning cottage on December 11th, 2018. There are no changes to the proposed structures, and therefore no additional AARB was reviewed. The Site Plan Review Committee met on February 16th, 2022, and were in support of the proposed extension. The applicant proposes the 4-year extension to the special use permits authorized on June 14th, 2018, and February 14th, 2019 by City Council to place the 2 learning cottages at Matthew Whaley Elementary School at 301 Scotland Street to remain through July of 2026. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the current location, layout, or size of the buildings. As of March 7th, 2022, the school enrollment was at 458 students, and the effective capacity of the school is at 455 students. The school currently exceeds 100% of their effective capacity. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to City Council that a special use permit be approved to allow the 2 learning cottages at Matthew Whaley Elementary School, 301 Scotland Street, through July 31st, 2026. My apologies for the mistakes in my notes.
Questions for Ms. Burke?
We have a representative present as well.
Okay. We'll go ahead and open the forum. And do we have questions for the applicants? They're comfortably seated. If we don't have questions, we don't need them to get up. I think we're good. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. I'll close the forum, public forum, and ask for discussion.
Yeah, I would love to say I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm in support of it. I do just want to throw out there that the learning cottage to the right is built right in the place where I grew up playing Foursquare. But you know, I think it's pretty clear there's a need for it. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I'll agree there's a need for it. Having sat through the last 1 or 2 of these applications, I'll restate my predecessor's admonition to the powers that be, that the perception that we have overcrowded schools in this district is not a good one for businesses looking to relocate here, for people looking to hire professionals. So I certainly personally hope we can find a better solution. Do we have a motion? Recommend approval.
I make a motion to approve special use permit for the 2 learning, the extension of the 2 learning cottages at Matthew Whaley.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Mr. Sokolowski?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We don't have site plans to review on the agenda. No unfinished business, new business, information items. We have added commission reports. Mr. Tarley, anything of interest from the EDA.
Yeah, I have a few notes here. One thing that they reminded me is that they had a vacancy on the EDA board that filled because we took Mr. Kale. And so Soheb Asmani has replaced Mr. Kale on the EDA. He's a William Mary student. A couple interesting items. Terry Benez of the Greater Williamsburg Chamber of Commerce reported on the Shop Local Boost program. There was financial incentives for people to encourage them to shop local, and it was apparently successful, and they're looking to increase that presence next year. The EDA also had an interesting presentation from Yuri Adams, who's the acting director, speaking on the city's business recruitment strategy. And so the idea is that, finding some niches that we don't fill right now and maybe reaching out to businesses. So that's something to keep an eye on. And I would always commend the EDA Business Roundtable discussions. This past week we had Peter McHenry, who is professor of economics at William Mary, talking about the business outlook. And next time it's Doug Smith, who's president and CEO of Hampton Roads Alliance. But you can review the replays on the city's YouTube channel. So yes, we have one, and they're on there. I checked. So
Super. Thank you. Ms. Liebel, anything from the ARB?
Yes, from the AARB, in addition to our routine activities, on March 4th, the ARB had a special field trip to the Bray School so we could see the advanced plan of work for moving the facility, and they have already done significant architectural work or archaeological work to determine what the building looked like originally, gave us a lot of detail about what their plans are for moving the building. And then we traveled down the street to the Orr House on Duke of Gloucester and got some interesting insight into a new interpretation they're going to do in that location by showing archaeology and architectural research in practice to our visitors at that area. The one thing that I think many people will notice, most of what the ARB does is not visible to the general public, but there's a property that belongs to the William and Mary Real Estate Trust at 327 Richmond Road. It used to be the Archaeological Research Center, or it is, and they're going to be moving. That building is going to be converted into a Starbucks while retaining its very appropriate Dutch colonial appearance and facade. The new tenant is going to be removing a newer addition off the back of the building and convert it into ADA accessible use, but it's retaining the attractive appearance that it always has had in that particular location. So those are the things people will notice.
Thank you. Mr. Sokolowski, any updates from the Williamsburg Public Art Council?
I do have some updates. So right now we're kind of looking at our mural vision that's taking front and center right in the Midtown Row area. And so we're working with the developer. We're looking at a couple of different walls that will be developed or turned into a mural. And we're in the process of developing kind of a vision for it rather than just sending out like a general basically application for any artist to apply to. We might start reaching out directly to a few to see if they'd be interested. We had a really constructive conversation with somebody who's very involved at the state level as both like an artist and more on like the administrative side of things. And he recommended us a couple of different artists and firms to look into. And there's one based in LA that could bring a pretty big name artist here. They recently did, so this artist actually did a similar project up in Norfolk, and then they worked with local artists as well. And because it was such a big name mural artist involved, there was like a whole PBS episode on it. A lot of coverage, and it encourages a lot of tourism. So we're hoping to use those to our advantages here. Those are my updates there.
Okay, thank you. We have scheduled a work session for next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Aaron, I see that it's moved to these chambers. rather than across the hall? Is that?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if the room across the hall was available. We've had some booking issues on.
Okay, that's fine,
Across the
yeah.
hall.
It's not that far.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have we'll have a presentation on the affordable housing work group. I had a presentation, I sat through a student presentation involving it, last month. And there were a lot of great ideas. They've done a ton of legwork, so I think it'll be very informative for our work, as it intersects with workforce housing, affordable housing in the community. It's very important. Any other comments? Anything we need to address? Anything we need to bring up? Hearing nothing, we're adjourned.